Hello music listeners and underground enthusiasts, it's 2024. As I'm sure you may have noticed, I took the last month or so as a bit of a break away from the weekly songs list to work on a couple videos that required a bit more of my attention. But now that the end of the year list is out of the way and the video essay that I was working on is finally out, I can come back and focus on what matters, and that is talking about underground music that has released on a weekly basis. I know that you all have missed it. And because I know that you all have missed it so much, I've decided to include a few songs that came out in the month of December. That way we have an opportunity to sort of talk about what I missed on my little hiatus. The first song we're going to talk about this week is from Twikipedia with I Wanna Be the Guy. This is from the Still Life project, and I know that I normally stick to singles, but I'm kind of phasing out album reviews from the channel for a little bit, so I figured that I would talk about it here. It's got some pretty heavy internet-fueled DIY vibes with a glossy guitar and electronic drum pad fill introducing the song, but it doesn't really have an overall synthetic aesthetic despite so many processed elements. It's a pretty cool dynamic. The distorted background vocalizations, the ohs, especially play into the sort of quirky nature of the song. The guitar work is some fairly straightforward indie stuff with some tasteful tuning and processing, and the vocal mix is buzzing and saturated, and the bells kind of help play into the generally playful nature of the track as well. At some points, the instrumental mix gets a little low-end heavy, which can make things muddy, but it is a good contrast for the high-end vocals and the bright bells, so win some, lose some. But honestly, that could also just come down to whatever you're listening to it on. It's a well-written song and incredibly sweet. I love it. Then up next, we got wolfyy with Heaven. This song heavily plays into this ethereal, angelic cloud rap sound and ensures that it hits all of the extremes of the genre, primarily in the realm of glossy and heavily processed vocals, incessant glitches, and cavernous reverb that echoes off into infinity. The melodramatic piano melodies and the sliding synth arrangements also contribute to this overtly sparkly sound. But even if what I'm describing does sound overly indulgent and in excess, wolfyy pulls it off pretty well and crafts a really pretty sound for this song. The floating falsettos of wolfyy's vocals blend well with the hazy and ambient production, and although my primary issue with the typical aesthetics of this genre is that they sort of obstruct what's being said, I can get over it for this song due to how stylized it's supposed to be and is. It's got a really great mix, some really cool ideas, wolfyy kills it. Then we have fats'e and 93 Feet of Smoke with Sleepinthrutheparty, all one word. A lot about this song does feel classic for both of these artists, and a lot of it sounds fresh, which is a dynamic that I think both of these artists juggle better than the majority of their contemporaries. Because both fats'e and 93 Feet of Smoke are artists that have evolved in their scenes and the general sphere of influence that they operate in, and their music has, in my opinion, become all the better for it. The slick guitar riff that opens the track is very unapologetically both of them. I'd be surprised if it wasn't there, if I'm being honest, but the rumbling 808s and the dance-inspired percussion recontextualizes it a bit for a more electronic and eclectic sound. I like this sort of back and forth panning and fats'e's sleepy delivery. 93's vocal presence and singing is very complementary to that sound as well, and when these big dance synths flood the mix, the energy is momentarily shifted in a really cool way. On paper, the writing is fairly straightforward and catchy. I think that these songs' shining moments are in its aesthetic, in its stylization, and in the hard-hitting poppiness that it has. This is a really cool entry from both of these artists. Then we have a new track from Eric DOA in the Dear Lover 46 account in the form of Oh You Don't Say with Synthetic, Vinny, and Puka. And said side project is now home to a very energetic pop track. I'm not always a huge fan of this overtly bright and energetic sound. A lot of the songs that do adhere to the sound tend to be a little bloated and overmixed in my opinion, but hey, this one's pretty good. The production is a lot of fun, showcasing swirling vocal chops, a guitar melody that is somewhat pushed into the background and overtaken by punchy and hard-hitting drums that give the song a pretty ridiculous amount of impact. It's very bright, it's very glossy, it is hyper-energetic all throughout, and the performances are also confident and hyper-energetic. The chorus is probably the biggest selling point of this song, and per the nature of the sound, the song does lose a little bit of shape with how much is going on in the mix, but it is a generally well-produced track, and makes up for those technical issues with how much fun it is. And then Cubensis has dropped Blood Eagle with Bruhmanegod. This song is very stylish. The opening sections with the foggy ambience and the staticky D&B drums are honestly kind of pretty. It's a floating and atmospheric sound that is, although replaced with a much heavier and intense sound, it's a good way to start the track. And when the energy kicks in with BMG's repetitious hook and Cubensis' relentless industrial production, the song finally bears its teeth in a very good way. The screeching 808s that slide and shift throughout the track kind of feel more akin to alarms than a bass, and I love it. It's very swirling and metallic, and the environment feels distorted and almost illegible at first glance, but when you pay more attention to the song, when you really listen to it, you do hear the nuance behind what's going on. And as always, BMG's high-power engine is firing on all cylinders. The man's energy is fucking relentless. It's a cool track, unapologetically leaning into some really interesting sounds with a nice balance of pounding, in-your-face hype, and interesting ambience. And then up next we have clvrr's with Young. The instrumentation on this track is really cool. The opening guitar riff is piercingly bright and very warm with saturation, and the punk-inspired drums sound pretty fantastic. I love how punchy everything is. And clvrr's vocals shine throughout the somewhat muddy mix. This chorus is probably their catchiest yet. These strained notes glide over top of the chaos. It's a pretty impassioned performance, and clvrr's writing and performance is the highlight of the track for me. The energy is absolutely electric. I really want to reinforce how good this hook is. The sound is also incredibly distorted. I would even say that the blanket of saturation is the defining trait of the track. It's an aesthetic that people love right now and I like, but I have a bit of a troubled relationship with it. It's certainly textured, but it can kill the dynamics of the track. It's like over-compressing a track. In an attempt to make everything sound really heavy, it kind of becomes flat. I certainly understand the appeal. It is a sound that I like a lot, and I think that clvrr pulls it off well, but it can be a bit much. But without getting overtly critical, I do love this song, and it is 100% worth checking out. And to end out this week's list, we're going to talk about Evan Carr's new song, Clearview Part 2. This is a fitting sequel to Evan's 2022 Part 1 of the track. It's an incredibly clean and poppy alternative rock song with some pretty great production from Elvian fueling the energy of the song. Evan's vocal performance and mix is pretty great, blending clear and passionate vocals that shine in a mix and these yelled background melodies finding a more ghostly presence in the mix as well. And in terms of writing, there's genuinely a lot here. The catchy sound is kind of deceptive because in the 4-minute runtime, Evan does find a lot to say. It's full of emotion and vivid imagery. Pair that with the clarity of the mix and the organic production, and this song is definition well-rounded. I love Evan's layering on the track. The grand harmonies and drawn out melodies towards the end are stunning, and as each layer is added to the song, it really does develop this big, grandiose cinematic sound. I just wish that there was a single moment on the track that wasn't so busy. The insistently layered mix kind of makes me feel like I'm holding my breath the whole time, and I think that a moment to breathe in the mix would make the awe-inspiring harmonies hit a bit harder. They sound fantastic, so it sounds a bit silly for me to be like, I want less of them, but that's just how I feel. And that's going to do it for the first weekly tracks list of the year, the first of many more to come. Hopefully I don't take another month-long break. These songs are all fantastic and I recommend checking them out. I also recommend checking out my top 100 songs of the year list that I put out 2 weeks ago. It's got all of my favorite songs from 2023. I also put out a video essay talking about the music that YouTube seems to algorithmically recommend to people on a random basis, and I'm very proud of that, so go watch that as well. Also, I'll be doing a Q&A at 1,000 subscribers, so there's an incentive. Catch me in the next video where we go over the hyperpop iceberg, but I get everything wrong. Goodbye.